Yeah, what I learned is one of the greatest values you can offer as a salesperson is helping someone make a decision.
If you're growing a business, you're in sales whether you like it or not. Most people are doing it in a way that feels off, awkward, pushy, or just flat out ineffective. They're over talking, under listening, clinging to scripts, or hiding behind funnels that don't convert. Today, that changes. So let me ask you an interesting question that I don't really ask a lot of people. What would get someone fired?
Because it's uncomfortable. Like nobody wants to have those conversations.
I sat down with Trey Dunavant, Director of Sales at Belay Solutions, one of the fastest growing support companies in the country. And he unpacks all of the things that'll make you different and better at sales. We cover the sales myths holding you back, what great salespeople really do differently, how to coach yourself in real time, and how to lead like the version of yourself that's already scaled. If selling ever felt hard, uncomfortable, or unnatural, it won't after this. This is Anatomy of a Brand, where we obsess over what makes brands tick so yours never settles. This is episode 18 with Trey Dunavant, Director of Sales at Belay. All right, so everyone who is growing a business wants more sales, and there's lots of fears in it. There's like the insecurities, the frustrations they even feel about themselves, or if they're leading a sales team, they're wondering, are they doing it right? How do we get more out of this team? Because it all impacts revenue and growth. But you don't become a sales director without having some sense of how to scale a company and grow sales. So we're going to jump into that with you, Trey. And in this segment, like in this episode, we're going to dive into a couple different things. The myths around sales. We're going to dive into moving from playbooks to people. We're going to have some culture conversations, some coaching conversations. You bring a lot of leadership and guidance into how to approach this stuff. And then there's a topic at the end that I think is a game changer, and we'll get there at some point. But Trey, give me the 5-minute resume of Trey, where you are, where you came from a bit before we dive into some of the myths and your early path into sales.
For sure. Yeah, so starting way back, sales got my attention early in life.
We're talking like 10 years old early?
This is like late teens.
Okay.
When I discovered that there was this way to just talk with people, engage with people, and help them solve their problems, and you could be paid for that, I was like, this sounds awesome, right? Sign me up. I love engaging with all walks of life, all different people, just the conversation, leaning in with them, but ultimately helping them get to some future that they desire was what struck me. And so you can look at Enneagram and all these things, but my combination of like a 3 with a 2 wing, that helper wing was like, man, this makes total sense. Like I come alongside someone, I help them. And so it was late teens, and I started probably like many in sales and retail. It was like a retail sales environment. Did that for a couple years, loved it, was successful there. Then got the opportunity to actually change gears completely and go more territory outbound sales.
What does that mean?
So the difference, I mean, obviously in a retail environment, I was just having people, you walk through the door and you start engaging at that point. And obviously what's in your place of business is their interest automatically versus switching gears to an outbound sales model was like, hey, you've got this, typically it's geography, right? You've got this geographical area. We want our product to infiltrate this market, have at it.
Yeah.
And so it was really a clean slate for me. That's the other part of that kind of nuance to that, to my story is at that time when I entered that geography, they had no presence. So it was just
the company that you were working for, it was nothing there.
Yeah. The company I worked for, the brand was no presence in that market up to that point. And so it's kind of like, hey, here's a bunch of people that need what we have. They don't know who we are. They don't even know we exist. So have at it.
I'm already intrigued to go like, what was your first step? We'll get there.
Yeah.
But like, I love the clarity there of like, they weren't even in the market. People couldn't identify them.
Yeah.
And you had to go in.
Yeah.
So then
I cut a bunch
there?
of teeth during that time. Learned a ton about sales, about relationships, about even management came in some of those years. And then transitioned in to more what I'm doing now, which is leading a team. And that came through working on a team, being successful on a team. And it's like, hey, would you like to lead others? And so you kind of move into typically a senior role and then ultimately into management or
and
director.
You've helped a bunch of different companies scale and grow. There's some other stuff you've done as well where you've gotten in there and you've helped them look at all kinds of stuff. I know some friends like Brandon and Nate who've been involved on some of your input on that. And that journey was before this role?
That was after.
Okay.
Yeah, so after that role, actually what moved me to Middle Tennessee was working with Michael Hyatt.
Okay.
So Michael Hyatt at the time was building out his coaching kind of arm to his business, to full focus. And yeah, crazy story there. We don't need
So
to get
you and
into,
Chad
but-
Cannon, which we had in the episode before, and Chad
Yes.
got real tactical with us too. I forgot about that overlap
that
between
connection.
the two of you.
Yeah. So that was the impetus for me being here is
Okay.
a chance meeting in Florida with him and I.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So we met in South Franklin, 30A. I was down at the beach with my family. They were there for something, and we ended up seeing each other in a coffee shop, kicking up a conversation, and then our kids started playing on the beach together, and we had a conversation there, and he's like, hey, we're building something.
Wow.
Come out and check it out. At that time, that was 4 years after we were acquired. So
Yeah.
not to get into too much detail, but the company I was with went from private to private equity owned.
Okay.
About 4 years into that, I was traveling, just had a second child, and was like,
Okay.
I've got to make a transition. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't sustainable. And
Okay.
so perfect timing with Chad.
I love that you call
paints the
38
vision.
South Franklin.
It
like
is totally
38
South
in Florida.
Franklin.
You're like, you look at all the license plate, you're like Williamson County, Williamson
Yeah.
County, Williamson
Yep.
County. But I love it. 38
I've
is
yet
awesome.
to be there and not look down the beach and see a neighbor or a
Dude,
friend or
I had
whatever.
I had, dude, this is so funny because I went to 38 for the first time. And I remember, now that you're pulling this story back up, Chad telling me this story about meeting you. And I remember being in 38 and being like, Lanham, I could meet somebody down here that ends up being a friend. And it happened, dude. It was so wild. I saw a guy in a hallway of a restaurant, and I was like, I think that guy lives in Nashville or in Brentwood. I don't know. We don't know each other. I go to an event like a month later in Nashville, and this guy walks up and starts talking to a friend. And I'm like, were you in 38 like a month ago? And he's like, yes. He's like, were you? And we identified that we were both in the same spot. We recognized each other.
That's
so funny.
insane.
But yeah,
it happens
South Franklin.
all the time. Yeah.
South Franklin.
So many.
Okay, so like
places.
let's dive into something for me for a second. Did you always see yourself, like, I know that you mentioned it, like as younger you started to see that you could get paid to help people, but did you always consider yourself like a salesperson? Was that a way you looked at yourself, or was there just a different way that you looked at yourself in that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, I actually had resistance to like the idea of a salesperson. Like it just
What's the resistance
classic-
there? What didn't you like about it?
I think early on it was just like that used car salesman vibe, right? It was just
totally.
like, you know, someone who's super smooth and like extra persuasive and not always honest, and like this kind of idea of salesmanship and the craft of sales. And it wasn't till I really stepped in and said, hey, I'm going to do it the way I feel like is like the most natural and the most genuine, which is you obviously in a sales interaction, it's always a value transfer, right? There's some kind of value transfer in any sale. And the reality is you should be helping them get from where they are to where they want to go. Plain and simple. That could be a million different things, right? But the idea is something about your life right now isn't the way you want it, and you want it to be different, and you could be the bridge to help them do that. And so when you show up more from a point of service, I'm here to serve and help you get where you want to go, it really changed the dynamic. And so that was the shift for me. It's like, man, it's not selling. It's actually a form of just helping someone get where they want to go. And if your product or service or whatever it is that you represent, your brand can help them with that transition, awesome. We have a conversation. If not, do them a service and point them in a direction that you know could be more helpful.
Which points to two things in the sales process. If you don't know the transformation that your brand offers, it's going to be super hard to make that conversation happen. And we'll get there as well. But one of the things I wanted to ask you in this early path into sales and the way you got there was, were there any habits or beliefs you had to unlearn? Was there something that you were like, was it like scared to close, scared to bring up money? What, like, that may have been natural for you, may have been something else.
Yeah.
Because I know when people get into the sales conversation, they're like, am I asking too much for something? Or is this, what do I do with this rebuttal? Or what? I wonder if there was anything you had to learn or unlearn when you were in that process in the early stages.
So I think actually Chad may have mentioned this when he was on talking to you prior. But one of the things I really had to learn or get through was like this idea of I was really good at building a relationship, rapport, really serving them. But then I did fail to call them to action at the end. So early on it was, and he would always tell me, dude, they're eating out of your hand. Like, just tell them what the next step is. They're wanting to know the next step, and you're not comfortable enough to do that.
Wow.
So early on,
what was the reason you weren't comfortable enough? Like, what would you?
It felt pushy or pressing. You know, it felt again that, you know, closer,
Yeah.
high pressure. I just wanted to stay as far away from that as possible.
What did you do to get out of that?
Well,
like,
what I
I think a
learned-
lot of people live with that.
Yeah, what I learned is one of the greatest values you can offer as a salesperson is helping someone make a decision. Whether that's your product or service or someone else's, part of the value you bring is you're there to help them make a decision. And so that is the last part, right? We talk about the product, we talk about the service, we talk about all the value that's part of this. At the end of the day, if I can't help you make a decision, which is yes, no, or not right now, I'm going to put this off till next quarter or whatever, I've failed in part of what I'm being asked to do.
Wow.
And so that is one of the things that really helped me unlock, okay, it's not about pressure. It's not about making you say yes. It's about you need to make this decision. This is somewhere in your world of ether. It's taking up brain space. At some point, you're going to have to make the decision. And if I can just help you make a decision, I'm adding value.
That's awesome. And if we move now into some of the myths that are holding back people in sales or holding back sales directors, that people in these roles, I know that you just talked about like stopping the mentality of like feeling pushy, but was there anything else that you were like, I needed to stop doing this when I was in the sales process? I had to stop thinking about this or stop doing this action that was actually costing me and revenue. Like, was there anything that you had to just go, I got to stop doing that?
Yeah. I think for me, the only other thing I can think of, identity is a big one. I think that's the biggest one, what we just talked about.
Unpack that.
The identity of, again, how you're approaching that. What is your value in this whole relationship?
Like,
the
as
relationship
you as a salesperson,
equation.
like
Yeah.
how do you see yourself?
How do you see yourself?
Okay.
Because I think in today's world, people are getting smarter and smarter and smarter, right? All of us are. We're more educated. If we're going to go out and source a product or a solution, chances are we've already done extensive research on our own. I think current data shows like maybe the last 20 to 30% is potentially engaging with a human about that thing. Otherwise, you've already done 70%, 80% of the lift of like researching what options are out there. What do I actually want? I'm trying to solve this problem, but what solutions could help me support?
Which is a crazy thing to think about for brands, because you're going, the human interaction is at this low percent. So all the other ways your brand shows up impacts the sale and helps support sales in these interesting ways where you're like, it's not just the person, but it's also not just how you show up visually and online in these other ways.
Yeah.
Those two are tied together. That's a good call out.
And you see that in consumer spending, right?
Wow.
People will spend more and more and more money without engaging with the human. Now it's up. I mean, you can get close to 6 digits of investment on certain products or services without ever talking to a human. So yeah, it does put more weight on marketing, on your brand, on how you show up, the resources you offer in an open space, open to the public, to where they can engage and do that. So
that's fascinating. That's a great call out. I love that so much. And I want to ask you another angle here. What's a best practice in sales? I'm going to cut at it a little bit that you think is completely broken. That you're like, this way I see people do it, I would say stop doing that. Like, I know that's a little bit line in the sandy, like a little bit edgy, but I'd love to know what your take on it, because you've been very successful at this. And I think there's a lot of people out there who haven't got the coaching that you offer, the people on your sales team, but then wait a second, what do you look out in the market and say, you cringe, you're like, gotta stop doing that.
Yeah. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is like, there's still so much in our world of like super high ego, drive, sell at all costs, both kind of externally and internally. Some teams still operate that way, where it's like, everything's just so hard driving. It's like, it's success at all cost. And I just think the way
What's underneath that? What's underneath the sales at all costs? Like, what do you think is driving these people that they're going? Is it that how they look when they close sales? Is it the way they feel important now that they can say it, or is it like, no, I'm just driving so hard to get revenue and all I care about is revenue? And what do you think? If you kind of put a hunch on it, what would you say it is?
I think it's more the middle one you just I think it comes back to that identity piece.
Okay.
I feel important. I feel like I'm in control. All of us want control for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And so the more I can control a situation, i.e. I'm leading it, I'm forward charging, hard charging, I'm going to make sure we get to this end, versus saying I only exist because this person needs a solution. It's a total, it's back to that service mentality versus like, yes, you need to lead. They are asking you to lead in a lot of cases because you're the expert, but not drive to the point of not taking their interests as the most important interest. Because at the end of the day, we all exist in our businesses to add value to other people.
So
and
you're
so
saying,
we're not doing that.
So you're saying there's potentially two types of way to look at sales. One is going, I don't even regard the customer. All I care about is closing.
Yep.
And
Selfish.
Selfish.
It's me, man. It's a commission check. It's a identity. It's the next toy I want to buy.
How do you coach people out of that mindset? Like when they're in that mindset, how do you get them to see it differently? Because that's a pretty strong identity, like, to hold on to. It
is. And certain industries, I think, fall into that more naturally than others.
That makes sense.
I think it's really hard to coach people out of it. Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot of it has to do with probably their personality and their own identity that they're figuring out themselves.
Do you think it has to do with the goals set by the organization and the way that they're led? Like
it can. Absolutely.
How much pressure they feel to X, Y, and Z?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. That was the other thing is like the other half of that is, hey, I'm not necessarily that way as a person, but I'm being called to be that person, right? You have to be this person in this space. And so the organization, how they design their goals, how they design their quotas, what they expect from their teams does determine a lot of that.
Fascinating. Okay. So you now are the director of sales for a vertical inside of Belay Solutions. Give us a quick look at Belay Solutions, what it is, and then what you're kind of in charge of in that space.
For sure. Yeah, so Belay Solutions, we are a virtual staffing company.
Okay.
Essentially, they saw, I wasn't there at the time, back in 2010, a need for supporting staff in the U.S. Primarily to support leaders. And so rewind the clock all the way back, that was pastors. We launched primarily to support pastors and teachers in a church setting with a remote individual, but that was U.S. based, so they could be in their same time zone. They shared a lot of life experience in some cases, right? It was just very, it was someone that was like, okay, this person understands it, they get it. And that's where we started. And it was really great, really successful. And I think it was, if I have all the facts right, Michael Hyatt was actually the first one to raise his hand and say, hey, I've got a pastor friend who's used you for support. I need an EA. Like, could you guys help a for-profit, just business owner in the same way? And that was really cracking the door open to what is now Belay, which is we serve nonprofits, for-profits. We serve all types of leaders and all types of industries.
Well, you're going to get close to $100 million in revenue this year. It's not bad.
Yeah, it has scaled quite dramatically. Yeah, it's been great. We have been blessed in so many ways.
Inside of Belay, like what's the roles and responsibilities that you have?
Yeah, I oversee sales for kind of half of the business, and that half is executive assistants and marketing assistants. So we really primarily support leaders in those two venues. Then on the other half of the business, we have our back office support. So think of bookkeepers, accountants, admins, even up to fractional CFOs we have on that side of the business.
Now, walk me through, now that you have a team of, you said before, roughly about 9 on your side of it.
Yep.
Walk me through, if you were onboarding me and you're like, hey, I want to walk you through the sales process and how you would, like, what would you teach me as a new hire in the sales process? Like, walk me through it from your whole, like, take your time. I don't mind it if you go on a rant here for a little bit. I want to hear how you communicate to new hires or new sales reps, how you think and how you position them for success.
Yeah. Well, we're a primarily inbound sales company. That's a pretty big differentiator. You have we talked a little bit earlier about outbound versus inbound. We are primarily inbound, meaning our marketing team through paid ads, through resources, through long form, through partnerships, we are bringing leads to the table, right? And that's a pretty common model in today's world, inbound sales. So in our world, we've got inbound leads coming at us every single month, and we round robin those out. So you're coming in and you're saying, all right, I've got the opportunity to speak with someone. They're already interested, right? They've taken time to fill out a form, give us their information, even potentially book right onto a calendar. So we know they're interested, right? These are very, very warm leads. It's our job to show up, find out what they're looking for, the solution they're after, and is Belay a good fit or not? And so in coming to our team, some of the things we would look at first and foremost is like our sales methodology or process. And we are very much a consultative sale because it's very much an intangible. We offer a service, right? It's a real person and they're doing these supporting roles, but the results are intangible. And that is something to go off on a small tangent. That can be a hard transfer for some people. Right? Oh, I've sold, roofing systems. I've sold windows. I've sold a product, a widget, a vehicle, whatever. That is you need that thing, right? There is on a day like today when it's raining, I don't want to walk a lot of places. So there is this demand that like, I want reliable transportation. Now, obviously, you know, whether I pick a Honda, which is visually appealing, super rock solid and meets the price point, or a Jaguar, very big difference, right? But like the need is there. With something like what we sell, it's more of an intangible. It's like, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm missing deadlines, you know, I'm feeling these things and I'm sensing these things, but the solution is, I want more peace in my life. I want, you know, more organization in my business. I just need support because I'm doing $10 tasks and I should be doing $10,000 tasks. Those types of things drive it. And so that's one of the things we would talk about too, is just a sales process. Here's how you typically have a conversation. This is what that conversation looks like.
Do you give them scripts, or you just teach them more about values?
I'm not a big script person. I love giving them, I call them bases. Hey, we're on a field. These are bases you're going to want to touch. The order you do it in, how you do it. Hey, you're driving this thing.
There's some empowerment and autonomy in that.
Totally. Yeah, I want them to say it in their words, do it in their way, but like we know these are important things that need to be covered within a given call. And so I try to set up those touch points, those bases, but give them the rein to, you know, do it how they want to do it.
And in that, are you going like, hey, these are some things to avoid? Are you like I know that you have this developer mindset. You can see it in how you approach things. It's like coaching mindset as well, where you see the potential hurdles in people and you see how they can scale up. Like, what's the things you're asking or maybe not the questions you're asking. What are the things you're pushing on to get them to avoid the wrong things or lean into the right things? Is it simply like what you said, like, hey, here are the bases, or is there anything else? Do you do do you review calls? Do you and if you do review calls, what's your process for that? Like, how do you look at that?
Yeah, we do review calls. I do a lot of call reviews as part of my role right now.
So if you do call reviews, my one question, which gets into some of your culture and some of your quoting and all that stuff. I mean, some of your coaching and culture over quota stuff. How do you prepare somebody to be reviewed? Because that feels pretty like, oh my gosh, like my boss is actually listening into my call that I had and going to give me input on my call. How do you prepare them for that?
It's a team. It's a we thing.
Okay.
It's always a we thing. I'm only successful in my role if they're successful in their role. And so the way I see it is we are collaborators in that way.
Okay.
I hope to take input from anyone around me, whether that's quote unquote below me on an org chart or above me or across from me. I'm always trying to get better. I expect the same from them every single day. What is our 1%? How are we getting better? And so call reviews are one of those things. And again, call reviews not to like, oh, you didn't get these words just right, but like, hey, are we showing up in the way we should? Did we actually ask the questions to where we truly understand where this person is and where they want to go? And then did we clearly relay our bridge in that scenario? Because there's always the future state island they're on. The island they're on right now, today's world.
Yeah.
And then there's always the future state island.
Okay.
And there's got to be some kind of connect there, right? And so a lot of times that's a pretty big chasm. And so clearly identifying and relaying and communicating what your bridge is and how your bridge works.
You said something I want to call out. I think it's natural to you. I don't always think and I think it's natural to potentially a lot of sales minded or people who live in that world. I don't think it's always natural to a lot of either solopreneurs or entrepreneurs just starting and getting, is you said, did you ask the right questions? I see a lot, even in the service industry, they come in with it's not a tangible product, like you said, it's a service, it's this intangible thing. And they start by talking about their product.
Yeah.
Like they start just going, this is why it's amazing. This is why it's X, Y, or Z. But it sounds like you have a little bit of a different take on that when you said, did you ask the right questions?
Yeah. Yeah, because you think about, I'll relate it to like you go to a doctor appointment. You've got a pain, you go see a doctor. The doctor doesn't start by telling you about all the drugs he can prescribe or she can prescribe.
So good.
Doesn't talk about all, right? We go straight to, hey, what brings you into the office? Like, why are you here today? Something brought you in. It's no different in sales. You know, if you're selling truly from a service mindset, it's what brought you in? What pain has risen to the point where you're like, I'm going to take 90 seconds to fill out a form of interest. I'm going to go on a calendar, find time that works for me and this person, book a call, and then show up to that call. You're telling me there's pain somewhere. And another way to look at it, maybe it's not pain, maybe it's challenge, maybe it's just, again, there's so much of just, I want better. Maybe there isn't a pain. Like I'm not limping, but I also know it could be better. And so, again, that motivator is enough for them to show up. And so, back to really reviewing those, I'm looking for, can you, at the end of that call, at the end of that time, can we call them SC, solution consultant, truly tell me what this person came to us for?
Wow.
Very clearly. Like if we can't at the end of that say, I'm on the phone, this is why they showed up, this is the conversation we had, this is what they want at the end of this, we've missed important questions in the middle.
Wow, that's an amazing metric. If you can say why they brought on the call, came to that call after that, you've done your job listening.
Explicitly, yeah. Specifically, why is this person, why did they come to us, what do they want, and did I accurately relay how potentially we could help them get there?
That's amazing. So that's one of the metrics you're really looking for in those sales calls. Can you do that?
Yep.
Okay, so if we move forward from this,
and that's a self-check. Sorry, just to
please.
tap on that. That's a self-check. If you're in a sales position, you're in a sales role, can you do that midway through an interaction with a person, midway through a meeting, a sales conversation? Can you accurately say, I understand what's bringing you here. I can understand clearly and define clearly where you want to be in hopefully a timestamp future. This is where I want to be in 6 months. This is where I want to be in a year, or whatever the case. If you can't do that, you're probably not asking the right questions. So go back and find out, what questions am I asking? Do I truly understand what the needs are of the client?
Okay, I want to dive in here because I think that I experience this when our work is getting, like, we're working with companies and brands, whether we're doing consulting stuff for on a strategy level, or we're doing visual identity work or web work, or we're doing content strategy for them, whatever it may be on a creative and brand level. We're getting, and they may say something like, I don't know, I just heard I got recommended to you. Yeah, like, or they can't articulate their problem or their pain quite well. Is there stuff you do, or tactics or strategies or inputs that you have for going, let's get this out of them? They may not know how to say it, but like, what are your ways of getting to that? Because I think sometimes, honestly, I do think a lot of people struggle with the idea of going, how does my service really touch a pain point? They're like, it's whether it's even, say, for example, it's a photographer, and they're like, I don't know how this hits a pain point. Or they're looking at it and they're like, there's the natural things, like you said, plumbers. We know how to work when we have a plumbing problem. That's easy. But when you build something like even Belay Solutions, where you're like, virtual assistants, they could probably go without it. They probably, in their mind for a long time, they're like,
the largest competitor we face is doing nothing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is our largest competitors. I'll just keep doing it the way I'm doing it. And I'm miserable, but like, that is a default,
That's awesome. I've never heard somebody say it like that. That is so good. So what do you do to help your team identify that, like, reason that they're on the call, if it's not explicit right away?
Curiosity.
Okay.
That's a hard thing to teach, I've found. Some people are naturally more curious than others. I think the most curious people make the best salespeople, because it's just this natural inborn intent of like, I'm curious. Like, I'm just going to keep asking questions until I truly feel like at least I can understand where you're at. And so that means also I can relay whether we're a great solution or not. And so I think that curiosity is really important. For those that aren't kind of naturally curious, sure. It's like, what questions can we be asking? I've found with particularly like less experienced salespeople, sometimes they'll even like start to ask the questions, but you can tell when they're asking the questions, they don't even understand why they're asking the question.
Fascinating.
And so it's like, okay, it's happening, it's coming out of your mouth, but do you even know why we're asking that question, right? So it's really helping them go a few layers deep of like, if we know this information, then if we can answer this question, we know this information. And so really helping them with that. And so I think curiosity, and then, I help my team with questions that they can be asking to help kind of spur that on. And then, as we always know, continuing to tap once or twice more on that. Why is that? What have you tried already? Has there been other solutions that you've tested that haven't worked? If they didn't work, why didn't they work?
Do you think
just continuing?
Okay. That's so good, because I love that you're saying continue to dive into that, because I think sometimes I know myself, and I've seen it in meetings, when we get almost satisfied too early with their answer. We're just like, cool, they gave us that, and we just stopped inquiring.
We checked the box.
We checked our box, and we stopped getting deeper and deeper. It's almost like you want them to feel like they're filling in so much for you, like that you then can recite back to them. So it sounds like this is the pain, and it's accurate. Well, I think you nailed it right there when you said we're just checking a box.
That can be the tendency. Is like, yep, I've got these series of questions that I want to ask, specifically if you are in an organization that uses some kind of call flow or call script. Hey, I'm just going to script and ask these questions, and then it's just a process, right? We're just literally moving down the process. And I think if you do that, I mean, you'll see quickly it doesn't work.
Yeah, you sense it when someone's going through that.
Oh, totally.
You feel it.
And you feel like you're part of the 20 questions. You feel like it's an interrogation versus a conversation. It's like, oh yeah, this person's just literally listing off the questions that he or she is supposed to ask because, again, someone probably above them told them they had to, right? Versus this is a genuine interest of really unpacking where I'm at today and where I want to go, and is there something here? Is there a there? Right?
Because this feels like the thing that keeps your team away from being just robotic.
Absolutely.
Like that, and I heard somebody say vision and leadership, I think it was John Maxwell talks about it, is, and our team was talking about this the other day, is when someone says, when's the right time to continue talking about vision? Or when's the last time you talked about vision? He's like, if it wasn't yesterday, it's too late. Yeah. And it's the idea that like the balloon will always drop and you got to keep
vision leaks. Yep.
So when you're, I love it, vision leaks. It's so good.
Yeah.
When I'm imagining you have to keep reminding, how do you overcome the sense of feeling like you're cliche by reminding your team about these kinds of things over and over again? Because I think some people get tired of it and they're like, I said this last week. Yeah. This is not new. I've said it last week, but I'm saying it. What are your own ways as this director of sales to handle that? Because I know it's a real thing for us when we're like, all right, we're saying it again.
Yeah. Oh man, leadership, you'd be amazed at how much of leadership is just repetition, is just like,
so true.
I mean, vision, strategy, coaching, things like this. It's like, yeah, you feel a lot of times like I've said this 1,000 times, but the reality is everyone's so busy, they may not even, it's not explicit like, oh yeah, we just talked about this yesterday. It just doesn't hit the radar for a lot of people. And so I think being also creative with it, approaching it from different angles, right? If I've said it one way and it's not catching on, especially in sales, if it's not yielding results, I'm probably going to approach it from a different direction. I use the same, so much of what I do with my team is what I would do with the customer as well. Okay. Finding out what's motivating them. Like if we're not getting where we want to go, if they're not seeing the results.
How do you do that? You're like, again, you say these things that are, I don't think everybody does what you do, which is why you're so great at it and why I wanted you on this show, because I'm like, there's an element of sales that I think you think about differently when you're going, I'm going to ask my employee what motivates them. I don't think a lot of directors do that. I think they're going, here's your job. Here's the clarity of what a win looks like. Yeah. Go do it.
Yep. Yeah. I think so. Yes, I do think a lot of organizations run that way, and that's the expectations, right? Yeah. We hired you for a reason. We're compensating you for that reason, and so you just need to do it. Yeah. I think the reality is my goals, even the goals of Belay, I want them to be exciting and thrilling for our teammates, right? For our employees. That's just not always the case. And it's at least not the whole story, right? Yeah. Maybe it is. Like, I totally connect with the impact that we're making at Belay, and I think every single one of my teammates would tell you they connect with that. The reason we exist, our mission, our values is very important, but it's not their whole life. And so I'm always like, how does this relate to you personally? Why is this important to you? Why is making quota this month to get the compensation associated with that, why is that important to you? You have personal goals, you have life goals, you have family, you have interests, you have hobbies. The more you can connect that with what we're doing within the walls of Belay, the better success I'm going to see. Because otherwise you only have half their heart or a quarter of their heart.
It's a slower process.
It is.
It's like
takes more intention for
which
sure.
Which is why so many leaders avoid this. They're like the relational dynamics of getting to sit with someone or hear them, whether it's through a call or through actual lunch, whatever it may be, taking that time to know them, to hear what, if they could say what motivates them, I mean, that leader is listening deeply in a way that's really meaningful. So I think that's a game changer. I think it's a secret unlock that a lot of people are not doing. And it says a lot about you as a leader.
And the crux of that is just like you're trying to help a customer, a potential customer get where they want to go. I want to help each of my employees get where they want to go. Yeah. And so I'm going to have a season that I'm responsible for them, right, within Belay. But my impact and my hope is I'm helping them get in their life where they want to go. And so half of that, they're trying to unfold for themselves, right? They're still on that journey. And so it's like, what about this role is serving you today? And also, what are your biggest dreams? Like, I want to hear those dreams because as much as I can promote you on that journey, that's value, right? And so if that means you're with us for a season and we get you a certain distance and then you end up going somewhere else, hey, the stewardship is ours during that time, and how can I help you get closer to your goals?
When you say that, there's our last interview with Carter Smith from Pink's Window Service. He actually said this line that I was like, you're saying it a whole other way, which was, you've helped make me a lot of money, to his employees. I want to make sure I'm helping you make money. I want to and make sure I'm helping you with what you want to accomplish in life. And it's just recognizing this different mentality is emerging, and it's not in small companies. Right. Like a $90 million company, Pink's doing millions. I think they're doing north of 25 million probably.
It's amazing.
And you're going, these are not like rare things where you're like, okay, that's just a kind of like an anomaly over here. You're seeing it repeatedly come up, and it's happening.
Because it's successful. It's holistic. You'll get so much more out of your employees, and your bottom line will look totally different when you invest in that way, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so let me ask you an interesting question that I don't really ask a lot of people, but I think it would be a fun one to hear your take. What would get someone fired? Like, what's the thing where you're like, man, this is the thing I'm looking out and going, shoot. Because you hate that moment. Like, that moment sucks.
Yep.
Like, there's no way around feeling like that moment is
the
horrible.
Least fun. Absolutely.
It's like, it's the roles of leaders that you're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I hate this part.
The people stuff. It's always the hardest.
So hard.
Without a doubt.
So hard.
So sales makes that pretty easy.
Okay.
And I say that because there is an expectation of output that is easily measured because it's attached to numbers. And so unlike roles that are less attached to an actual number outcome, that is one thing benefit, I guess you could say, to sales is it's like
lucky
it's pretty
you.
easy. Yeah, lucky me. The problem is when it is underperforming, as a leader, you have to ask yourself, what is my contribution in this person being short of this goal, right? Because am I equipping them, and am I coaching them in the way that they need? Am I unlocking their superpower? Because everybody holds these unique keys, and I think it's like a fingerprint. Everybody's got something unique that if you can unlock, especially in sales, help them leverage that. It's kind of like it's skills, but each of us, just because of our life experiences, shape us to be uniquely qualified or gifted or able to do certain things. And when you can, as a leader, see that and then leverage that, it makes a whole unlock, and I think a realization and identity shift happen. So back to the numbers, in sales, it makes it pretty easy. If someone's not hitting the number, that's expected, especially in a world like ours.
Is there a warning call? Is there like a, hey, or is it usually?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Which some people don't even understand that. They're like, I haven't had any preliminary conversations to help get somebody somewhere.
A lot of times we wait as leaders till the last minute. We just push it up because it's uncomfortable. Like nobody wants to have those conversations.
Correct.
If they tell you they enjoy those conversations, they're lying. It's just not humanly comfortable to be having those conversations. The more you have, the easier it gets. But the idea is, I love to bring it forward, and when things are getting off track, again, it's collaborative. I hope they feel, and they should feel, like we are linked arms. Clarity's kind. I'm just going to be super clear. Hey, we're missing the number. It's not just a month. It's now 2 months. Anything over 30 days is a trend. You can have anomalies. And that probably, and I say 30 days because that's the sales cycle I'm thinking of. That's varies,
great.
right?
That's
by
great.
business. But there's a difference in anomaly, or hey, it's a bump. It's just this random act versus looking at a trend. I love a 3-month rolling trend in our world.
All right.
With anything in the 30-day sales cycle kind of range, 3-month trend is great. One bad month is like, okay, check in. What's going on? Is there something we're missing? Did something change, right? We were doing something, and do we shift? 60 days is a trend. 90 is like, okay, there's decisions being made at 90 days. And so what I like doing is early on, really at between 30 and 60 days, having some kind of, I'm going to say emotional firing. That might be too strong, but there needs to be an emotional clarity moment where you're like, we can't keep going down this path. Something's got to change. Again, this is a great time to unpack. Is there something personal happening, right? I see you maybe doing all the things you were doing in the past, but it's not working. Is something else taking up brain space? Is your energy and emotion tied in something else?
Seeking to understand.
Again, it's what is that thing?
Bro,
and then come alongside them to help turn it around.
And I think you said something that highlights your paradigm of leadership that I think makes you effective in what you do, which was, I'm going to ask myself, is there anything I'm missing? Is there anything I need to be asking or doing? And I was talking to someone the other day about this. When you see underperforming teams in sports, for example, in the NFL, the first thing they do is fire the coach. So if a whole team is not doing well, it's like, hey, go look at how the coaching is being done. It's not the whole team that gets fired. There may be a traded player here or there, but you're really looking at the responsibility to make a team hit an outcome on that coach. And so you're, as a healthy leader, you're not running away from that going, it's my team's fault, we're not hitting numbers. You're going, there's something I want to ask, make sure I'm doing my part in this, which again, think it points to who you are as a leader and the ways that you look at things. You have talked about leading your future self. You mentioned to me about like this kind of paradigm about looking out into the distance. And I think this is a little bit of the game changer in how your kind of approach to life, leadership, sales, all the different things that have made you successful. Explain what you mean by leading from your future self.
Yeah, I've noticed this a lot, even within the world of ballet, right? Okay. Because of so much of the work that we do is around delegation and really ensuring that you as an individual are focused on the right things at the right times and being important things. It actually stemmed from a book that came from a recommendation. A good buddy, Ian, mentioned a book, Your Future Self Now, Be Your Future Self Now, I think is what it's called. Benjamin Hardy, great book, phenomenal book. And it really talks about, it's identity. I mean, I feel like it keeps coming around to that, but so much of this is identity. Critical. It's like, who do I see myself as? And then how would that person operate, right? You look at anything, whether you're going to pick up a new health routine or whatever, until you identify as that thing, which fascinates me altogether, because you talk to people all the time that run multiple times a week and you ask, are you a runner? The typical answer is like, no, I'm not a runner.
Yeah.
Well, I saw you running like almost every day this week. Yeah, I run every day a couple miles, but I'm not a runner. Well, it's like
Jonathan Payne. I always see him running out of your neighborhood.
Yeah. It's totally that. But it's like we don't identify as a runner. And so in any of those scenarios, once you identify as that person, everything's going to start changing as far as actions. And so similarly, you can apply that to a lot of areas of life. When you start to see yourself in the place that you want to be, the path to get there not only becomes clear in a lot of cases, but you start to adopt out of not obligation, but just inclination, the new habits and rituals and routines that you might want to take on to be that person. So, you could apply that to your calendar. You could apply that in all areas of life as far as if this is who I need to be. And need is a judgment word, but like if I identify as this person, what needs to fall into place to allow me to reach that?
We're kind of reverse engineering that person and going, what are the steps? You just like you just said, calendar. So if we ask you, when you look at your calendar, what's one thing that tells you? I think you even mentioned this in the text with me of like that $10 million organization. If you're leading that in the future, what does your calendar look like? So that you're not doing as a $1 million manager. Like what's the way that you're looking at your calendar differently between those two things? Like if you're going to nail that down on a calendar level.
Yeah. I think depending on your role, so much of that needs to be more strategy and less in the weeds, right? Okay. When you're leading a team and you're an engaged leader, the tendency is going to be for you to be pulled into everything. Right. Because you're engaged, right?
Totally.
I'm locking arms with you. So like the littlest thing, I'm going to ping you.
You feel a burden about it. You're like, I want to help be in there.
Yeah. And they expect you kind of to be in there because of the role that you're taking to say, hey, I'm shoulder to shoulder with you. I'm here to help you. Like, what can I do to facilitate your success? That means, there's this tendency of like, they're reaching out to you for anything and everything. Yeah. So first thing you do is look at your calendar. The primary role of a sales leader, one of them is creating clarity. Clarity drives acceleration in every format. If you want to go faster, get clearer. And part of that clarity is for your team as well. And so if they're coming to you with the same things over and over, there's not clarity. Something's missing. Just like a confused buyer isn't going to buy, I would argue a confused salesperson will not be effective selling. Wow. And so really providing clarity for them. So what I do is I monitor on my calendar, I'll monitor what's rolling up to me. And if we're doing the same things over and over, if I'm having the same conversations over and over, it's a sign to me that I need to create a resource. I need to do some training. I need to provide even, an SOP to ensure that this doesn't keep coming
I still love how you're calling out your processes are so different than other people's because they're going to go, there's a problem. I got to get involved. You're going, I got to create a resource. I got to create an SOP. I got to create, which is a standard operating procedure for those that are like never, ever dived. They're like, well, he just said so. when you're doing that, you're again saying, I am not going to get back into the weeds. What I'm going to do is multiply my efforts by creating something that allows my leadership to be present without me being present.
Right.
And that again is that unlock that you see in all the themes and how you lead is like, I got to multiply myself. Right. I can't just stay on me, which is fascinating. It's not the normal. It's
Great leaders do multiply themselves for sure. And I'm not putting myself in that category. I've still got a lot to learn, but the idea is, when you can multiply yourself, whether it's through, a supporting role, like, in my world today, I have an EA, her name is Key. She's awesome. She does so much for me that I would typically have to do.
Wow.
I've got a revenue enablement, kind of like sales coordinator role.
Okay.
Beth, she does so much with the team that normally would fall onto me. So that you can do that with roles. You can help support and multiply yourself with roles. But you can also do it with automation. You can also do it with, SOPs or documents that spell out certain things. You think about in the sales world, even having like a repository or an inventory of like, hey, these are sales resources that we need all the time.
Yeah.
If your team is having to go and search for these things every time they're on a call and they get off a call and they're like, this person was in this space, in this industry, we had a really good conversation about this. I want to send them that, client video or testimony, or maybe it's a blog post or whatever. I want to send that to them and I got to go find it every time.
Yeah.
Creating those things where they can just quickly and easily and with clarity access them and deliver them makes a big, big difference. So roles, systems and processes, and then self-governance, which is the hardest thing. Is like for me, I mean, full transparency. I wanted to send you some information before this time, right?
Yes.
And I was like, you'll hear from my assistant. She'll get it over to you. Well, I raised my hand and said, I'm going to take care of it. And I didn't even take care of it. So self-governing is the hardest thing, right? It's like, what am I doing within my own calendar, my own means to make sure I'm focused on the right things?
Yeah. And that's that big rock mentality too, like versus I think Stephen Covey, right? The whole big rocks before small rocks. If I put those big rocks in there, if people aren't familiar with that analogy, he's like, if you try to put all the little rocks into a glass jar first and then fit the big rocks and then try to put all the sand in, it doesn't fit.
Work.
But if you put the big rocks in, then all the sand will actually make its way into the glass jar perfectly.
I think that's where I have a full focus planner sitting right here. I've really enjoyed the full focus planner. It works on the analogy of big threes. Okay. So big three for your day, big three for your week. That rolls out to your quarter. Same thing. It's big rocks.
Yeah.
And
How do we take those wins?
Again, as a leader, whether you're a sales leader or otherwise, identify what's truly important first. Yeah. That's the big rock. Yeah. And when you can get that front and center, you can fit the other stuff around it.
There was one more thing that you said or underlying in what you said that I think is really critical for leaders of sales teams or leaders of any level of a team. You were again highlighting the idea that if there's a reoccurring problem in the team or there's something going on and you're trying to lead your future self, you're leading differently today, which means that future self doesn't get lost in the weeds, like you were saying, coming in and getting real tactical again, solving problems because we're locked and linked arms. I think what I want to call out is what that ends up doing to your team if you keep doing that.
Yeah.
Like how it costs the development of your team and you don't have leaders anymore.
Yep.
What you do is you actually remove their ability to think like leaders because you consistently come in and rescue, or you're not thinking it's rescuing.
Right.
You're thinking like, I'm being supportive.
I'm solving a problem.
I'm solving a problem. And this team needs me to solve problems. But what you're doing is you're removing their leadership abilities.
Yep.
And you're like, how do you handle, and this is where we'll wrap up, how do you handle stepping away and letting your team have that autonomy and going like, what's the way that you do that? How do you allow yourself to go, I'm not going to dive into that. What do you have to tell yourself?
Ooh, man, I have to tell myself some problems don't need solving right away.
Okay.
Even though it feels like it. So it's back to that, like, it's a me thing, right? So much of leadership is a me thing in the fact that, like, I haven't developed myself enough. So there's certain problems that you see that do need to be addressed. And that's just, that's going to be something you acquire over time is, does this need to be addressed or not? Once you can start to get a feel for, hey, that does need to address, this one actually, it just needs to wait. It just needs to sit because one of two things can happen. Either the individual that brought that to you can get creative and figure it out on their own, and that may be the development that they need is like, I'm sensing that this is a repetitive thing, so I need to start giving you more and more kind of like allegiance to take care of this yourself.
Yeah.
And so
Jordan says, I like the chaos. Jordan's like, I'm gonna let the chaos sit. Jordan's the president of Harvard Union and the AVP.
But
of
I bet
Group.
he's had, I mean, that may be a little bit natural for him. I don't know. But like, that's probably development.
Oh, yes.
He's had to just like, I mean, because
because
again,
he loves getting
most
involved to
leaders
help.
are like, I just want to, like, we just need to solve it because there's so much more we need to be doing, right? So I'm just going to jump in and rescue. And
I think
get
that's
it
the truth.
done.
They're like,
And-
there's so much other things. If I just come in and solve it real quick, we can keep moving.
Exactly. It's progress, man. Yeah, it's progress and speed. Like, I could get it done quicker, and let's just get this out of the way.
Yeah.
And really just forcing yourself to be like, no, it doesn't need to be done right now, and it's a learning opportunity for this person. Just make sure you loop back, because there's always the after action review, right? Not only to make sure it went well, because like, you know, the worst thing in a leader's life is being surprised. Like, we don't want to be surprised by anything, but make sure the lesson was learned.
Yeah.
Because you can abdicate, and that's not healthy, right? So if you just like, hey, I'm just going to turn a blind eye, they'll figure it out. That doesn't go well either. So, you know, give them time to process and figure it out on their own, but then loop back. Hey, what did we learn? Right? How are we gonna do things different next time? Like making sure that it actually lands is kind of where my mind goes.
I love it, man. Thanks so much. This is all so insightful. And I think any person leading a sales team or leading a team in general will gain a lot from this. So thanks for the time, man.
Absolutely.